Let us look at the 75 years of U.S. support for Israel in this briefing as the war in Gaza rages on. Why is the U.S. so interested in the Israeli war over Gaza and giving its unconditional support for Israel? Let's find out together. President Harry Truman became the first world leader to recognize the Jewish state in 1948, and President Joe Biden's pledge for the U.S. to stand with Israel preserves that particular relationship. Truman now has a kibbutz in Israel, and the U.S. spends billions annually supporting Israel's military. Israel has a significant influence on U.S. policy, and not simply because the majority of previous presidents have attempted to mediate peace between Israel and the Palestinians and advance a two-state solution. I discussed the U.S. and its ties with Israel with three presidential historians. Mark Updegrove is the president and chief executive officer of the LBJ Foundation. Julian Zelizer is a CNN contributor and a professor at Princeton University, and Douglas Brinkley is the presidential historian for CNN. They all provided me with different perspectives on how the U.S. and Israel are related. In 1960, Eisenhower made an appearance at the White House alongside Israeli Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion. Israel attacked Egypt in 1956 alongside France and the UK in an effort to capture control of the Suez Canal and depose Egyptian President Gamal Abdel Nasser. Eisenhower put pressure on the nations to withdraw their troops, and they eventually complied. Israel's nuclear aspirations worried President John F. Kennedy. Kennedy waged a covert lobbying campaign to persuade Israel to suspend its nuclear program and permit U.S. inspectors access to its nuclear facilities. Although it has never openly acknowledged them, Israel is suspected to have produced nuclear weapons in the 1960s. According to Updegrove, Cold War tension was very much a product of this. I believe there was a lot of worry that the conflict would grow to involve more countries than just Israel, Egypt, and Syria. The first time a special hotline between Washington and Moscow was used in official capacity was during the Six-Day War. After the Cuban Missile Crisis, the teletype machines were set up to reduce hostilities between the nuclear superpowers. When the Soviets first made contact, Johnson assured them that U.S. military operations in the Mediterranean was not cause for fear. The majority of regional historians, according to Zelizer, believe that U.S. munitions support was crucial to Israel's survival at that point. Henry Kissinger, Nixon's Secretary of State, also engaged in shuttle diplomacy, bringing an end to the conflict and finally reopening the Suez Canal under President Gerald Ford. At this moment, before the 1973 war, Biden visited Egypt and Israel as a young senator and had his first direct experience with Israel and the Middle East. He has retold the tale in various forms throughout the years, always citing it as a turning point in his life. Nixon's backing for Israel cost him money as well. Brinkley told me that he did damage to his own presidency, because the Arab countries instituted the well-known Arab oil boycott, which caused a surge in American petrol prices. Nixon's support of Israel contributed to the American energy issue. For the Camp David Accords, which established a long-lasting peace between Israel and Egypt, its Arab neighbor to the south, Carter brought Israeli Prime Minister Menachem Begin and Egyptian President Anwar Sadat together. Today, Egypt as well as Israel police their borders on the Gaza Strip. It is frequently referred to as the largest open-air prison on Earth, since more than 2 million Palestinians are confined to the 140 square mile area without being able to freely exit. If Carter's achievement was establishing peace between Israel and Egypt, his failure was not winning the release of American hostages imprisoned in Iran. Since Biden agreed to unfreeze $6 billion in Iranian cash held by South Korea in exchange for the release of 5 U.S. captives detained in Iran, there may be some irony in the fact that Republican presidential contenders are now blaming him for the ongoing conflict with Israel. During the Carter administration, the Iran hostage crisis captivated the American people for more than a year. Brinkley said Carter realized that Sadat had really paid, given his life for Camp David, and he kept a picture of Sadat in his wallet. Therefore, Carter genuinely threw himself into the effort to establish a Palestinian nation in his capacity as former president. The left side of the current Democratic Party, would be supportive of that kind of advocacy for Palestinians. After the Bush administration, Obama attempted to restart the Middle East. Even though he continued to back Israel, he called its occupation of the West Bank an occupation. He opposed the development of new communities in the West Bank with increased vigor. He orchestrated a meeting between Abbas and the Israeli Prime Minister of the time at the White House, but the attempt ultimately failed. The U.S. ambassador to the UN Security Council decided not to veto a resolution denouncing settlement expansion after Trump was elected. Obama and Biden negotiated the lifting of specific sanctions with other world leaders in exchange for Iran giving up its pursuit of nuclear weapons. Republicans requested that Netanyahu address the U.S. Congress in 2015 in an effort to derail it because of his adamant opposition to it. Trump, a fervent supporter of Netanyahu, would eventually renege on the Iran nuclear agreement. Trump also endorsed the annexation of settlements in the West Bank and East Jerusalem into Israel, thus siding with Israel. Ronald Reagan placed a premium on forging deeper connections with Israel, a course that increased anxiety for U.S. forces stationed in the area. Following Israel's invasion to hunt down PLO militants, U.S. Marines were dispatched to Lebanon as part of a peacekeeping mission. Both the U.S. Embassy and the U.S. Marine Barracks in Beirut, Lebanon, were bombed in 1983. The terrorist organization with ties to Iran at the time, Hezbollah, was determined to be responsible for the barracks attack, which resulted in the deaths of 241 U.S. servicemen. U.S. courts decided that the $1.75 billion in Iranian funds that were kept in a New York Citibank account should be given to the families of the bombing victims. Because it almost brought down Reagan's administration, the 1980s plot to give Iran missiles in exchange for the release of American hostages in Lebanon is significant. Israel served as the intermediary in the incident, which many people may have forgotten. The bigger scandal came when Reagan administration officials paid anti-communist guerrillas in Nicaragua using the money from the sale of armaments. Reagan claimed that Israel orchestrated the hostage-taking operation in his memoir from 1990. It's not always a linear form of history, according to Zelizer, but I believe that all of this has an impact on various aspects of regional policy. Israel saw some difficulty when President George H.W. Bush tried to assure that U.S. money wouldn't be used for West Bank settlements. Additionally, he attempted to unite Israel with other countries in Madrid to launch a Middle East peace process that included Palestinians, who were acknowledged as members of the Jordanian entourage. The Oslo Accords, which established peace between Israel and the Palestine Liberation Organization, and the normalization of relations between Israel and its neighbor Jordan, were the results of independent negotiations that were not facilitated by the U.S. Nearest to achieving peace between Israel and the Palestinians was Clinton. When the Oslo Accords were being drafted in 1993, Clinton supported the historic handshake between Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin and Palestinian Authority leader Yasser Arafat. The Nobel Peace Prize was given to Shimon Peres, the Israeli Prime Minister, and other Middle Eastern officials. However, their accord did not produce a sustainable peace and left the question of Jerusalem unresolved. It also established the Palestinian Authority as a fictitious administration for Palestinian. United Arab Emirates Foreign Minister Abdullah bin Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan, Trump attended the Abraham Accords signing event at the White House. Arab countries such as Bahrain and the UAE later recognized Israel, as well as Morocco and Sudan. Although it was a significant development, the issues facing the Palestinians who lost power were not addressed. Despite their differences, Biden and Trump have not fundamentally altered policy, and in fact, Biden has advocated for normalization of relations between Israel and Saudi Arabia. As Israel continues to attack the Gaza Strip in an effort to punish Hamas, the prospects of further similar peace initiatives with Arab countries may now be in doubt. That's where we wrap things up for the time being. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.